I'm J. Lenora Bressler. Welcome to the April 30, 2017 edition of the Bible Delight in the Details. Now, if I asked you, what was Jesus' first miracle, most of you could probably tell me, oh, that's easy. That was when he changed the water into the wine at the wedding of Canaan. But many people have thought, that seems a strange way to start off your ministry. Yes, it's impressive, of course, to change water into wine, but if you were going to start off with a miracle, miracles being primarily to be symbols and to be kind of showcases of power, then you might think that it was a little bit beneath the dignity to just be sure that, a party had some beverages. But as usual, there's more to this than at the surface. And that's what we try to specialize here on in Delight in the Details, is those details. Now, interestingly, we need to look at the context of this first miracle of Jesus's in his public ministry. It came just days after he had been baptized by John, and John had gone on record as declaring him to be the Messiah, going so far as to say, "Behold, the Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world." So that was kind of the public pronouncement of Jesus's ministry beginning. Now, then we're told in John chapter 2, as this story begins, something very interesting. On the third day. Now, that's interesting. That's a detail that, most people would think, well, what does it really matter if it was a day, 2 days, 3 weeks? But it's interesting to us because on the other side of the cross, of course, when you hear the third day, you think instantly of Easter and the greatest of all the miracles, the resurrection. So for those of us on the other side of the cross, that little detail makes our antennas go up a little bit. Maybe there's something a little deeper than is on the surface here. Maybe there's some way in which this story is tied to the ultimate miracle of the resurrection. Now, it appears in the story very clear that Mary, Jesus' mother, was somehow connected with the family. Perhaps indeed this was a member of the family that was getting married, because she was in control of part of the party. The servants were taking directions from her. So it is very likely that this was part of the extended family of Jesus that was where this wedding was being held. Now, interestingly, during that time, here's how a wedding was celebrated. It wasn't like it is today, where you have your wedding day and pretty much everything happens that one day. The ceremony, followed by the reception, followed by the wedding night and the consummation. All very quickly done in one fell swoop almost. In that day, what would often happen is that the groom and the groom's party of friends would appear at the bride's home at night, often in the darkness, with lights. There would then be the bride would then be escorted to the groom's father's home. The groom would have had about a year of betrothal, of engagement, to build onto the father's home and prepare a place for the bride. And then a 7-day long, a week-long 7-day feast, a very elaborate feast would occur. And that was actually the wedding feast. It went on and on and on. Now, remember, today, when you think about who is funding, who is supplying the majority of the supplies for a wedding, you think about it being the bride's family. But in that day, it was not. In fact, it was crucial that the wedding feast be done well and that it look opulent, that it look like there was plenty of food, plenty of drink for that entirety of the week, because that was an indication that the groom and his family could take care of the bride. And if the wedding feast did not go well, it made one wonder if this had been a good deal for the bride. So it was really a huge deal about reputation. It could bring great dishonor on the family of the groom if it did not appear that they could provide well for the guests, because there was a implication that they would not be able to provide in the future a good life for the bride. Now, apparently, there must have been a connection to the family, as we said, because Mary was so involved. And also, when the wine ran out, she came to Jesus and let him know about it. Now, it appears that she wanted him to do something about it. And he very kindly but firmly said, woman, not using the word mother, but putting a little bit of distance, still respectful, but a little bit of distance there. My time has not yet come. Letting her know that the only way he is going to do anything like a miracle is if this was on his own time frame, his God the Father's time frame, not just because Mama wanted him to do it. Now, it does appear, however, that the desire of his mother and the providential time of God did coincide in this circumstance. And he did turn the water into wine, as we know. Now, there's a lot that can be said about that, and I'll speak more about this tomorrow. But for right now, I want to talk about, why do you think that Jesus chose this time a wedding to be the first miracle of his ministry, his public ministry? And I think there again, those of us on the other side of the cross are greatly helped in this. We know that Jesus talked about that we are the bride and he is the bridegroom, and we will one day be enjoying forever the marriage feast of the Lamb. Notice it's not the marriage feast of the church or the bride, but the marriage feast of the Lamb, meaning the groom. Very, again, traditional. That's traditionally accurate in the way the weddings were done. This temporal, earthly marriage that Christ was attending, apparently having to do with his own earthly family, is somewhat symbolic of the ultimate spiritual marriage between the church and Jesus and the marriage feast. And it shows that Christ can provide. He can provide what is needed, and will not allow the reputation of his family, namely his father, the father of the groom, so to speak, to be in question. It's actually beautiful. And when you think about the whole idea of the marriage procession, the fact that the groom goes and claims the bride in darkness, bringing light to her, then escorting her to a place where he has prepared for her for over a year, his father's house, an addendum, more rooms added to his father's house. And then they are there enjoying the feast with all of their friends and family for an extended period of time, 7 days, 7, of course, in the Bible, meaning a perfect cycle, God's timing. It's a beautiful thing. And frankly, I can't think of a more appropriate way to begin his ministry than with a miracle in a temporal setting that has such a spiritual symbolism. I'm J. Lenora Bressler. Visit me tomorrow as we look at more about this first miracle of Jesus at the wedding in Cana. See you tomorrow.